Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. I think it cuts off a little bit. Maybe your internet is slightly unstable. Maybe, just a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, it is a little bit. How was your weekend?
Good. How was yours?
Yeah, it was so good.
How is the weather right now in Mexico?
Raining, it's rainy season, so it's literally, yeah, it's cold and raining, but it's okay, it's good, much needed.
Well,
What about for you?
we're at 31 or 32 degrees today. It's start to be summer.
Yeah, that's good. So nice.
So maybe we're just
Cool.
gonna
I'm
wait.
so
Me too. Thank you so much for joining, for accepting my invitation, and seeing the similarities between your clients and mine. And so this is what we're going to discuss today. Maybe we can give maybe one more minute and give some time for people to connect.
sure. So yeah, I guess in the meantime, what just for the people who are jumping on who are my followers, do you want to maybe just explain who you are?
Of course. So, hi, I'm Angelina. I have started my company named Canling People. After 15 years of HR, I now I'm using my skills and knowledge to help people to accelerate their job search process. It can be people who are already living in Canada or people who are about to immigrate to Canada because the cultural differences can be slightly overwhelming and the way of doing things is definitely different. So I coach people with the mindset, and I think you do that as well. And I revamp resumes, do interview preparation, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that during our conversation. And I also help people negotiating their salaries. In a nutshell, I'm a career coach. In a nutshell, that's what I do. And maybe you can do the
Yeah.
same for my followers.
Yeah, so I am an ADHD coach for entrepreneurs. I am the founder of the ADHD Business University. I have a podcast called ADHD Refresh, and I help people to really release themselves from the traditional model of ADHD that's kind of preventing them from really stepping into being magnetic and creating the reality that they want for themselves. So I get super excited about it. So I have a lot of success with my clients. So I'm so excited to share some things today with you guys. So yeah.
Excellent. So maybe we can start, and maybe we can first of all explain what is ADHD.
Yeah. Sorry, one second.
That's
It's
okay.
just
Don't
like
worry. Go.
it's so humid in here. I was like, I don't know where my air card is. Yeah, so ADHD. So typically ADHD, ADD are now combined into the same thing. So typically it presents in people who are the common like narrative about it is that they have a really hard time focusing, easily distracted. It also presents in procrastination, overwhelm. Some people have anxiety. There's a lot of comorbidities that go along with it as well. Um, and yeah, so it presents in a bunch of different ways for people as well. Executive function is another one of the things that my clients struggle with as well. So that's kind of what I help them do, and that's kind of how it shows up for people. Those are only some of the things. We could be here for hours.
Yeah, for sure. As an HR person, I went online and checked what Canadian laws had around ADHD, and I realized when it's severe, it's actually part of the Disability Act. And so I think it's important for us to say that because if we talk today about accommodation, either because you are recognized with a disability or not, it's important to be able to talk about it. But again, I think it's going to, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but it's going to depend on how people already know how to manage their performance or their tasks based on how much they know about themselves and how having ADHD impact them on their day to day. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super glad that you brought that up actually, because when I was in school, I hated thinking that it was a disability, but I also used it to leverage my advantage when I was like needed extra time for like exams and stuff like that. So the really cool thing about ADHD is that I don't necessarily look at it as a disability because so I mean, yeah, I would use it when I needed to call it a disability to help me and leverage myself forward. So it's kind of the same as people if you're in a job position, you know, you can use it in that sense. But I think that it's super cool because I was reading this book the other day called Scattered Minds by Dr. Gabor Mate, and because I've gotten myself to a place where I don't experience the symptoms of it anymore. And it was kind of on accident how it all happened. But in that book, he wrote, is it possible to grow out of ADHD? And his response in it was like, you can grow out of it in terms of like learning to heal yourself, how to reparent yourself, how to move through like a lot of trauma that you, not like huge traumas, but like little traumas along your life that have kind of like accumulated to some of the symptoms, because I think ADHD is like this whole host of things that kind of come together to contribute to the experience that you're having. So yes.
So it means as an individual, and I'm sorry I use the word disabilities because I'm very HR, and I looked at what was in the laws, but I'm assuming once you are, I'm going to start with that question for you. Did it help for you when you got a diagnosis in English? You were diagnosed. Sorry, say this word for me in English, please.
Diagnosis or like diagnosed. Yeah, diagnosed.
Diagnosed.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed 3 times. Once when I was really young in school, my mom got me tested because I was having really a lot of problems with like reading comprehension, writing, retaining information, focus, all that kind of stuff. And so she got me tested, which helped because I got support through school, and then I also got put onto medication. And then I got retested when I finished high school so that I could go into my post-secondary. They wanted me to have testing done again to make sure that I could get my accommodations. And then when I went to university in Australia 2 years later, or 3 years later, they retested me again. So yeah, it was pretty, I got tested a lot of times, but I was required to get it done so that I could get the accommodations in that sense. So yeah, I guess it depends on what the circumstances are. Like I work with a lot of clients too who don't want to get diagnosed, and they're like, I have no desire to get diagnosed. I've heard of people who are like, you know, in the entrepreneurial space, they're like, I refuse to get diagnosed. I know that I have it, but I won't. I will not go into that category, which is totally fine. And they're like, I find ways to make it work. So I think it's a different spectrum. Everybody is on at different places. There's people who have really severe experiences of it, and then there's people who are quite high functioning. So it kind of just depends on like where you're at with it.
And once you got this information, except to get your accommodation, were you able to look at the symptoms and be like, okay, it impacts my day to day, and this is the type of things I'm going to do in order to not experience it at a higher level, or being able to function in a way that works best for me, because now I know what my tactics are?
At the point when I was diagnosed, I think it actually brought up a lot of like shame and anger and resentment, because at that point in my life, I didn't realize like I took the diagnosis as who I was, and a lot of my life. And so I see a lot of people doing that as well, is they get diagnosed, and then what they do is they spend hours and hours and hours researching online. And what happens is you take something that's outside of you and you make it mean something about you. And it doesn't mean anything about you. It's literally like somebody decided one day that this is what ADHD was, and it was in the medical model, which is like, you know, focused on the illness model, which is like really focused on here's the problem, and they don't necessarily talk about the solution. The solution in terms of medicine and the traditional route is through medication. And so this is kind of like what I work with my clients on, is like, just because that there's all this research out there, and you know, that doesn't mean anything about you. It's not who you are unless you make it your identity. And so I allowed a lot of people I allowed the diagnosis and things outside of me to determine my worth, determine my self-esteem, determine how I felt about myself, which really it kept me really stuck for a lot of years. I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of shame. In that sense, I was going to go get accommodations for university and all that kind of stuff, but I was doing it almost reluctantly. I knew I needed to do it. I knew I needed the help, but it was like shameful. I didn't want my friends to see me walking into the disability center, which is what they call it. I think they changed it now to like student services. Um, and so I struggled with it a lot, but it did give me a lot of answers. I think diagnosis is important because you get answers about maybe how your brain works. And I always tell people it's like, great, get the information that you need and then get off of there. Because the longer that you spend time absorbing that information and reading, even following people on social media, it really prevents you from coming back to yourself and asking yourself questions like, what is going to work best for me? What do I need to support myself? So it does give answers. And then once you have the answers, stop researching.
You know, it's funny. One of my friends has ADHD, and he can listen to a podcast, read a book at the same time, work at the same time. And for me, every time I see him doing this, I'm like, oh my God, this is so rich. You can learn so much and know so many things and get so much knowledge. It's like, it's not like that, Angelina, but from the outside, I almost see it as like being lucky. I think it's the wrong word, but I see him being able to absorb so much information and knowledge. And I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could do and learn so much in such a short period of time. But it's what you see from the outside, and you obviously don't live with this. So I don't. So it's interesting for him to say, no, it's complicated, Angelina. I have to do 10 things in one time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it kind of, I mean, I don't know who knows how productive that really is. I mean, your brain can only necessarily comprehend so much information. So it's sometimes is just overstimulation and distraction, and you're not actually getting anything done. I mean, I don't know your friend, obviously, but I know for me, when I was at the state when I was most distracted, doing all the things, it was like, it's a trauma response, right? And in this book, Scattered Minds, they talk a lot about how to heal yourself and experience the things that you need to experience so you can reparent yourself into not experiencing and having that trauma response there all the time. So yeah.
And so how do you say it impacts the people you work with? What do you see on a day-to-day basis? How do you help them to help them with, I guess, communication skills or train of thoughts, or being able to focus on one task so they can reach their goals? How do you work with your clients?
Yeah. So I think it's different for everybody, right? So even though maybe that this is one of your trauma responses and this is a way that you operate, I think it's like when you're learning to manage ADHD, you're kind of working with it in the area that works for you, and you're like just putting systems in place. So for me, I teach my clients because one of the things that helped me get to where I am is I was easily distracted, and I was getting more results in my business by allowing myself to be easily distracted. So now I have way less distractions just through the work that I've done, and not eating processed foods and all this kind of stuff that's helped me become a lot more calm. But I help them, like, where you're at today, it's totally okay. It's normal, right? So many people are struggling, and it's okay if you're at that place. And so I set up a lot of systems for them. A lot of it is like internal work, really understanding yourself. What are the things that you're distracting yourself from? So when you have distractions that are showing up for you, or you're procrastinating on something, there's always a deeper issue, or like a deeper thing. Like, what are you procrastinating about? Is it because you feel inadequate? Is it because you don't know the answers? Because you're not quite sure how to collect your thoughts? And so it's having the deeper awareness of like, okay, what's going on for you? Why are you feeling overwhelmed? Why are you feeling like procrastinating? Why are you feeling like, a sense of apathy? And then kind of working from there. So I think the tools only work so much to the level of which you can apply them. So a lot of the work that I do first is like, let's just get in touch with yourself, learning how to regulate your nervous system, coming back to yourself, connecting with yourself, and kind of going from there in that sense.
So I think, on the coaching part of my business, I think I do a little bit the same with people, because before everyone can find a job. But what I'm doing with my clients is to find a job that works with their values. I want them to be happy at work. or with their job, because sometimes you go to a job and you're miserable because your boss is terrible, the culture of the company is terrible, or you work your ass off and you don't get the pay you deserve, or for all the results that you bring. It doesn't matter, but I really help them to define their values, and we work a lot around the negative thoughts that come into their mind. Why do you think you would not be able to achieve that professional goals? And very often we have the imposter syndrome, or I'm not good enough, or I have never done this, so I will never able to do it. And so then we rework on the narrative that they tell to themselves, because once you are able to tell a story, once you're able to, I'm sure you read the same type of books, but how you nourish your thoughts are going to impact your emotions, and it's going to impact how you do things. And so it's obviously we don't do the same thing, but I think the way we can approach someone, and it's the same for you, it's not one size fits all. I have obviously a workbook or workflow, but then depending on the needs, I adjust, I adapt, because not everyone is the same, and not everyone thinks the imposter syndrome impacts their day-to-day the same way. But once you feel much better and you gain confidence, you can talk about yourself very much easily. You are able to talk about your skills because now you are aware of them. You are able to highlight your skills. You're able to be more concise in your communication skills because, oops, and I'm losing. And that I see that a lot with, for example, when I do interview preparation with some of my clients, they rumble. I ask them a question, and if you don't want to lose the recruiter attention, you need to give a short answer, and you use the STAR method, which is the situation, task, action, results. But people have so much to say. If they don't follow this, then it's a 5 or 10 minutes response, and I'm like, you lost the recruiter. So, and we work on that as well. So do you see that with your clients as well? People, they start something, they want to say something, and then 5 minutes later, they're talking about something totally different.
Yeah, that's totally ADHD. It's really, really funny because it's like a joke that, they'll start over here at one story and then they go over here, tell 50 side stories, and then they come back and then it's like, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, we're going to go over here and now we're done the story. So, yeah, it is quite common. A lot of people with ADHD verbal process. So sometimes I'll even be on calls with my clients and they're just like talking. It doesn't matter to me because I know that that's just how they process information. That's how they come up with ideas. But when I was like, if I am going somewhere and I know the interview questions, or when I was working and I was preparing for jobs, I would literally write down every single interview question I could ever think of. And I just sat there and I read, like write my answers. And I just went over them like 500 times literally until it was like in my brain. So then when they asked me, I was like, okay, boom, I know the answer already.
Yeah, it's the perfect way of doing things when you prep for an interview. It's like writing down the answer. Now we have technology as well. I say to my clients, even after we did our prep together, I send them the recording, but I'll tell them to take their phone and to try it again, to see if it's between 2 and 3 minutes answer, and have the feedback through the video, because I help them to really, this is the answer that the recruiter is going to look for. So this is what you need to write down, and this is how we rehearse. But then they have to do the exercise 1 more time or 2 more times. But the phone is a great tool to actually get the feedback and see how you communicate. Because if you don't know how you do it, like if you don't have the mirror effect, you don't know. I mean, I have friends, they know they rumble, so that's why they call me and they're like, I need your help. But the rehearsing part is very, very important in any skills. I think communication skills is actually one of the most important skill in any type of day-to-day activity. Either you need something at the grocery store, or you talk to your friends about what is going well or not well in your life, so they can really help you because you explain the situation concisely. And yeah, it's the same. It's a skill that you have to learn. So it's probably what you do and with your clients, right?
Yeah, well, I tell them all the time, right? It's like, where are you starting your business? is not where you end up. And the only way that you can become really good at selling your offer, and the only way that you can actually become a master at like what you're doing and what you're communicating, is literally you just have to do it. And so it's just about getting on Instagram Live, talking about your offers, and it's just doing it over and 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 so many times until it's like ingrained in your brain and you understand what you want to say and what feels good. Because I think that people have this false idea that, okay, well, everybody else makes it look so easy. Everybody else knows what they're talking about. Nobody knows what they're doing. You just have to get up and practice it and just like keep going until it becomes natural to you, until it feels really good. So that's, I totally agree with you in that sense. It's like practice. You just have to keep practice, 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 practice.
Why, especially at the beginning of the entrepreneur journey, you're just learning so many new things. There's so much to learn. But it's like, yeah, again, it's a skill. Like you're gonna sit, you're gonna sit, you're gonna sit, you're gonna sit until it becomes totally natural to talk about it in a way that resonates with people.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's and so we are talking about communication, train of thoughts. Is there anything else like I think we are talking about that because it speaks for an employee, it helps a candidate, it helps the entrepreneurs, but anything else for you that you think are similar for these three category of people? I think really, even if I have to think of resume, it's very difficult to tell your story on a 2 pages document. And really, again, telling your story, it's not easy. It's really an art of having someone outside who can actually guide you so you can make things very impactful. Because again, when we go back to communication skills, verbal or written, it's about making your point.
Yeah, it's very similar like on Instagram, you know, and just how everything changes really quickly, right? It's kind of like when you're looking for a job, your skills are always changing, so you always have to update it. It's the same as like on Instagram or TikTok, the algorithms are always changing, and the way that people consume information is always changing. So it's like you have to keep up with it all the time. It's the exact same thing as like what people are looking for, the job interview processes, like all that kind of stuff is so important to just be in the times, be up with like how everything is going so that you can understand and so you can navigate it in a way that's better for you.
And how does someone who have ADHD is able to handle, I mean, it's probably very different for everyone, but managing change, because we just talked about all the changes as an entrepreneur with, social media. I don't have ADHD, but I hate the fact that everything has changed right now on social media. And I'm like, darn. But does it impact you a lot when things change, and what type of, if I could say, tools can you give to your clients with managing changes?
Oh, that's a good question.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it is. No,
No,
it's a
because
great
it's the
question.
same for an employee, in a department, corporate world is always changing, adapting. They need to be competitive. And so flexibility, adaptation, very important skills as well.
Yeah, totally. I think people with ADHD sometimes can really struggle with changes. Like, actually, when COVID happened, so many people started getting diagnosed with ADHD because they came home and they were working from home and then they had no structure. And so a lot of people were really struggling with those changes and holding themselves accountable and getting things done that they needed to. And so I just know a lot of my clients really struggled with that. Um, I do actually work with clients one-on-one who are not entrepreneurs. And so that's why I'm thinking of that, because I know they were struggling. But tools in terms of like navigating the change, I think is like everything is just always going to be changing all the time. And I think it starts with one, accepting that fact that everything is always going to be changing. Second is like, what do you need for yourself in a change, right? Like I'm moving shortly. And I know that every time I move, it takes me a little while to get settled again. And so it's like, okay, I just need to be like patient with myself as I'm going through this move, as I'm not in my regular routine and being as productive as I want to be, right? It's like, okay, what do I just need to do to anchor myself in to feeling good? And that's my routine in the morning, exercising, eating healthy. So it's like super basic stuff, I think, and just coming back to yourself and finding out what you need. But I think really anchoring in something in your day that is of a routine that makes you feel really good. So it's different for everybody, I guess. But for me, my main ones are eating healthy, exercising, movement, and my morning routine, writing in my journal, meditating. It super anchors me in for the day. What about you?
So it's mind and body.
Yeah. Yes. Totally.
Well, it depends because I see change in two different ways. I see when I create change, which I accept easily, and I can be impulsive and do crazy 360 changes in my life, and I have no problem at all. Um, but I see that when the change is imposed upon me, it's a little bit different in a sense that first you need to accept it the way they are, and you don't have control over everything. So you have to accept that. And then I think I always ask myself, what am I going to learn, and what is going to be something good to learn from that change? Because a change very often can be very good, and if it's not good, I say to my clients, now you need the change, and you need someone to push you towards that change because you're scared, or looking for a job is super daunting. Like seriously, it's a roller coaster of emotion, and they tap into me because I have the knowledge and I can give them perspective, and I can tell them all of the good things that they are currently doing for themselves, hiring a coach, because it's not that I'm holding their hands, but I'm helping them to make the right decisions for them. And it's the entire process where I tell them, you're looking for a job, but you're looking for the right job for you, not just a job. And so it's like, but change is like some clients, they've been enrolled the same job for 10 years, and they don't want to make that move because they don't know what comes after. And they're so used to of what they currently have. And so what if the grass is not greener, pretty much? And so that's all of the internal work that you need to do first: introspection, understanding yourself. What are you looking for in a company? What type of questions to ask during the interview? Because you are picking a company, not only they are picking you. Yes, you need a job, but ask the right questions based on what you want. And that's what we do during the coaching as well, based on their answers. I say, this is the type of questions you need to ask to make sure this is a good fit for you. There's nothing worse than being hired, and after 2 weeks, you're like, nope, not
Yeah.
a good.
I've had
So
people like that too. It's the same with clients, like in entrepreneurship. It's like an interview both ways to make sure that both of you, it's a good fit for everybody, right? And I think there's nothing better than trusting in the universe. And if you say no to somebody, like, I don't think this is an alignment, when you say that, you're like signaling to the universe, okay, I'm ready for like what is in alignment with me, what is the right client or the right job.
absolutely. Well, it's funny because just when you're looking for a job, sometimes my clients, they apply, they saw a job, and they're like, oh, this is me. I really want the job. And I have to say, okay, but we don't know what's going on behind. Maybe they already have someone. And so it's not over your control, and it's not your ego. Like, it's okay. It's not you. It's like maybe they already had an internal candidate. Maybe they were already well advanced in the process. Maybe they are on hold and they just had not removed the job online. And so it's about also working on, it's not me, and it's okay if I don't get that job because something else better would come for me. Um,
Yeah.
but it depends again where you're at in your job search process, because some people, they are still working, so there's less pressure. And there are also some people who are moving, for example, from France to Canada, and they want to make sure that they have some earnings because, as we know, Canada is a little bit expensive. And so it depends on where they are at with their journey. But it's so it's so rewarding. I just love my job. I just love to see how they evolve. And there's nothing better for me when they say, I got an offer and this is exactly what I want, and I'm paid how much I need, and it's wonderful. And then you're like, it's just like it's my reward. Like I always say, their success is my success. That has been my motto since I started kenneling people. And there's nothing more rewarding than helping others. And I tell people, I posted something today on Instagram based on a book from Stephen Bartlett. I don't know if you know his podcast. It's called The Diary of a CEO, and he has really great people coming to his podcast, and he wrote a book called Sexy Happy Millionaire, or Happy Millionaire Sexy, I don't know. But and in his book, he was talking about how he doesn't believe in a dream job, and I don't believe in dream jobs either. I believe in helping people to find happiness at work, which is a little bit different for me. And he was saying that there is 5 proven psychological evidence of how you can be happy at work, and one of them is helping others. And I think depending on who you are, if you find a purpose in your job, that is going to make you feel good about what you do. So, for example, my last job, we were going to our job every day because we were helping to, well, we were investing a lot of money to get a lot of return to pay pension. And it's very different from when you go to a job and the money that the company is making is for the shareholders. And it's just like, it does impact every day. Why am I doing what am I doing? Oh yeah, because we pay the pension. Like, this is the goal. This is what we do on a day-to-day basis. And so anyhow, that's one of the things.
Yeah, I think it's super
Go ahead.
it's super important that, like, even, you know, as entrepreneurs, we're finding people who are, you're allowing them to step into what they love doing. Like, I have one of my VAs, I know she loves to design stuff, and so I try and, when I have a design project, I try and give it to her because I know that's what she loves doing. And it's just important that people feel valued and appreciated, and their opinion is, you know, heard. And entrepreneurs and business owners, at the end of the day, need people who are on board with their mission. And if you don't allow people to express who they truly are and work in ways that make them feel amazing, why are they going to stay with you long term, right? And I think, yeah.
Exactly. We've been talking about ADHD, managing ADHD as an entrepreneur, an employee, and a candidate for 30 minutes. So maybe if people have questions, we can let them know that they can write their questions in the comment. I guess you don't see the questions, do you?
Yeah, they will. Yeah, they'll show up.
Okay. And then just to let people know that we'll share a mini course. You have a mini course that we can share with people, and I will share also the top or the most common pre-interview screening questions in an interview that helps with the script. So everyone is different, but there is a framework on how to frame the answers. Obviously, we'll have the replay, so I'll ask people just to be slightly patient so I can translate everything in French.
Yeah, cool.
Well,
I also,
we're in Canada.
Yeah, I know. I'm super excited to share it. I also have a workshop I'm hosting on Wednesday on how to overcome imposter syndrome for people with ADHD. So that's open to not just entrepreneurs, but people who are searching for jobs as well, if they're interested. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, there's no questions so far. So I think, is there anything else? But thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today, and our people who joined. It was lovely. I hope we'll have the opportunity to do that again. And if there's anything that I can do, let me know. I'll be more than happy to jump in.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been tons and tons of fun.
Excellent. Well, enjoy your day. And hopefully the rain will help you to stay home and do everything you need to do for your business.
Thank you so much, Angelina. It's been amazing. I hope you have a great evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.